Barrister Chima Williams is an environmental activist and an environmental lawyer who fights environmental injustice and has held a multinational company like Shell, and others to pay for damages that they have done to our environments while doing business here. He's also the founder of the first student environmental justice group in Nigeria. Of course, he has been named Earth's foremost environmentalist in the country. Good morning, Barrister Chima Williams. Good to have you on Rise and Shine this morning.
Yeah, good morning, my sister. It's great having me.
Great to see you. How are you doing today? Are you in the city of Uyo?
Well, I am in the city of Benin.
Benin.
The ancient city. The ancient kingdom of Benin City.
There's a lot of work done. Do we have a lot of earth, and environmental related activities going on in Benin as we even speak?
Sure. Benin is one of the cities in the Niger Delta region and hosts some facilities of oil or gas related companies. So we see the hazards that extraction creates in most Niger Delta communities. We see them present and prevalent in Benin City.
Okay.
And its environment.
Great. So let's talk about some of the works that you have done. And in recent times, let's come back to, areas like the Niger Delta, for instance, the South region, where we know that, heavy work is being done, especially with regards to oil in this sector. What are some of the concerns that you've had to address? But I'm going to approach the conversation from the fact that a lot of these multinationals have packed up their bags and are exiting Nigeria. Now, looking at their activities when they were in the country and now that they've exited, are there things that we should be concerned about? Are they environmental injustices that were perpetrated by them that will be, left, unattended as they leave the country?
Yeah, thank you so much for that concern, because you see, the first issue is that the multinationals that are now exiting the country after having sucked us dry are milking us, creating a lot of problems, legacy, environmental pollution issues, destruction of the fabrics of society in terms of creation of social unrest and social disbalance, destroying our economic system by touching on citizens' livelihood sources, thereby disempowering citizens and creating opportunities for nefarious activities, because, of course, man must survive. Survival is the first instinct in a man. So when you create this balance from the source of that survival, other avenues are approached, whether right or wrong. So this is one of the greatest problems of this divestment that the multinationals are embarking on. You cannot really live after you have, wantonly destroyed the people's system, and then you just want to run away without looking at the problems that are already on ground created by you, and then the problems that will arise even as you are living, handing over to other less financially endowed organizations to handle. Okay, some of the problems that are already on ground, the multinationals were unable to solve them, and they are handing over dirty deal to national companies or indigenous companies, who may not have the financial muscle to tackle the problems that they themselves were unable to tackle before try to run away. So such concerns are there. A lot of environmental pollution cases Some are already in the courts. Some are on discussion platforms. Some are on petitions to government agencies. But it worries us that amidst all understanding by the government of the day of the problems and challenges that are on ground, they are willing and ready to grant these companies, the authorization to leave, which is questionable for some of us, because the primary duty of government is her citizens first, okay? And the corporations that are operating in your communities or your country are also your citizens, corporate citizens. So you have to create a balance. Do you want one citizen to hurt the other and go scot-free? This is the question. And nobody, from all of us as activists, nobody is saying that, well, you cannot leave, but you can't leave. It will be unconscionable for you to leave after destroying the people's, lives. Let me use that word, lives, because anything that impacts against the effective enjoyment of all the faculties that provides for life means that we are curtailing the people's lifespan. And that is not a very good one to be remembered for when you are living.
So my question now would be, in what way exactly, can activists like yourself and organizations such as yours actually move to make sure that the federal government gets some kind of respite, from these organizations before allowing them to leave? Because just as you said, you're already worried that the federal government is facilitating their exit without looking at the impact of their exploration and activities in Nigeria. Who will pay the cost of this? In what ways can you actually move to make sure that we get some form of cushioning, I would say? What are the things that you can actually do?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the first point of call for us as activists and environmental groups is mobilization and awareness creation for the communities and citizens of oil-producing areas to understand the implications of these corporations just waking up, picking up their portfolios and leaving the country, okay? Or leaving their areas of operation, because most of them are not leaving Nigeria. They are only living their offshore, onshore activities and developing deeper down, downstream. So they are still there, but they only want to run away from prying eyes of citizens to where it would be more difficult for citizens to look at their activities and question them. So what we had done had been to mobilize and enlighten community people, and that we started in our previous organization, by organizing an awareness and enlightenment events where we brought community leaders, representatives, civil society, media, for us to interrogate, because we did research on why actually the real reason behind this full-scale divestment. Okay, of course, we know that previously some of these companies have been doing some piecemeal divestments of their facilities that are no longer needed or useful to them, that they want to sell out as scrap to other companies that may need some of those facilities to rehabilitate their own facilities and equipment. So that had been going on. But this full-scale, divestment, what brought about it? And in our research, we found out the key, number one issue, apart from, all the issues that they talk about, sabotage, taxation issues, and the rest of them. Those are not the real reasons. The key is that citizens of Niger Delta have realized themselves that self-help will not help them solve their problems and win themselves of the problems that are, heaved around them by the operations of multinationals and even some indigenous companies that are extracting from their communities. So citizens have realized the power and potency of application of the rule of law using the law courts to seek for redress. And if we follow clearly, you can see it wasn't a coincidence that from 2001, when the courts in Europe started giving the judgments against multinational corporations in favor of, small communities and villagers and farmers and fishermen in Nigeria, that coincided with when the multinationals started their plans for full-scale divestment. Okay? So, and the argument that they used, we tried to critically look at the issues. Of course, we challenged the multinationals to come out and give us their indicators and indices to show that as at 2021, that sabotage was on the high level. Because we know that through our campaigns and our activities, even our brothers and sisters who were involved hitherto in issues of environmental destruction caused by sabotaging of facilities had reduced drastically, and there was relative peace in the Niger Delta, arising possibly from, the court decisions that had given power back to the citizens against the multinationals. So it became an argument that stood on its head to say that as at 2021, the corporations were divesting because of incidents of sabotage. No, it wasn't correct. And we equally looked at the issue of taxation. They claimed double taxation and the rest of them. But in our own books, we looked and saw that, in fact, they were receiving heavy tax rebates, incentives. Okay? They were polluting, destroying, and then they were still receiving incentives, to continue their activities and development and finding of new oil wells, both, deep offshore and shallow waters. Okay, so they received those incentives. So how dare they now talk about double taxation in any case? For us, were the real reasons for the divestment, wholesale divestment packages that we saw. Citizens have started, holding them accountable operations for their operational mishaps. Okay, in 2001, it started in January, on January 29th, 2021, when the Court of Appeal in The Hague, in the case of the 4 Niger Delta fishermen and farmers against Shell in The Hague, ruled against Shell, okay, for lack of duty of care and negligence, okay, and held them accountable to pay compensations or damages to the victims. And that was followed up on February 12th, 2021, by the UK Supreme Court, which held that the UK court has the jurisdiction to entertain cases from Nigeria against UK companies. So, and that now dovetails, even like empowering the judges in Nigeria to proactively deliver judgments that hitherto would have been unthought of. Okay, so these clearly showed that citizens have awoken to their own game, and they were now, head and shoulders at par with the multinationals who, before then, were thought to be untouchables. So whatever they want, they do, and they get away with it, and nobody who holds them accountable. They can maneuver and manipulate the system in their favor. But, those decisions from 2021, January, began to show a shift, a paradigm shift in judicial pronouncements, which now became more dangerous for the multinationals, that they were no longer willing to continue to stand on that, knowing fully well that that would have opened up floodgates of litigation against them, because now jurisdiction had been created both in UK and in Europe, okay, to entertain cases from their host countries against their activities in their own home countries. So if we take that, it means that, look, there is no other way. What can we do? Is to continue to use the courts to hold them, and then to stop the government from, going ahead with their plans. Although we still do let our people know that even if they have divested, okay, especially if they have been prior notice to the investing company that, look, you are buying a bad asset, okay? So he who buys an asset also buys the liabilities that follows it. So you should be prepared to undo the problems that were created to solve them. But where that is not the case, that the company had divested, especially where there had been discussions on solving the problems and the problems had been identified, it becomes a legacy problem that your divesting cannot relieve you of responsibility of undoing what you did. So that is it. So we continue to enlighten the people to understand that. And then we had asked the government of Nigeria, of course, under the last administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, through our activities, some of these wholesales were stopped. The ExxonMobil sale in Akwa Ibom was stopped. Shell sale was stopped. The any Nigerian Egypt oil company sale was also stopped, okay, until certain conditions are met. But now it is a shock to us because there is no known evidence or information that those problems that made it impossible for those sales to have happened just in 2023 earlier, in this 2024 had already been solved to enable those sales. So it is something that we question, the propriety or otherwise of those sales. Thirdly, we had recommended to government that they should create what we called environmental restoration bond for divesting and investing oil companies, so that both the divesting company and the investing company will set up a pool of funds that will be managed by the relevant government agencies like NOSDRA others uh, to ensure that if there's any problem that arises, either during or after the sale, uh, citizens are not left at the mercy of these indigenous companies that may not have enough resources to tackle such problems. So there will already be a pool of funds where the government can draw from to solve the problems. After all, it's a company which is a business venture for profit that has created the problems, and the national resource should not be used to solve such problems for the profit making of individual organizations or companies. So the company should bear responsibilities.
Has that been implemented, or the window for that to be implemented? How strong is it? Because if we don't do that, it means that a lot of these multinationals would have profited more from the country than the country itself.
You are right, and this is why I said, one does not really think that these approvals this time is appropriate, because we have not seen any sign of even the present government demanding for that, let alone that it has not happened. We have not seen that. We have not seen the government come up to tell us that, yes, these are the environmental restoration plans, the cleanup, plans that are set up by the investing or divesting company. Of course, recently we heard about the Bayelsa State Oil Pollution Commission report, which was presented with the committee disbanded after having done a very good job. But the follow-up, because the recommendations of the commission's report has provisions for what the government need to do and what the companies themselves need to do. Government cannot do their own and do that of the company, which is a business, private business enterprise. It wouldn't go well. So we will be demanding for a comprehensive review of the processes that led to the granting of the approval for some of these sales, especially that of the Nigerian Ajib Oil Company that had been sold to Oando. And Oando, we know, is run by the cousin of Mr. President. So we don't want to accuse Mr. President of nepotism in this. So we must come out clear to tell Nigerians, this is the real situation of things. The conditions that made it difficult for those approvals to have been secured under the past administration, that those conditions have been met now, so that it will not be shrouded in secrecy and allow for speculations.
Okay, so just to diversify a little bit, because you're strongly in the conversation that is happening in the oil sector, in recent times, in the last 2-3 years, the DHQ, the Nigerian Architecture and Security, have raised concerns of, even the NNPCL have raised concerns of oil theft and sabotage being a great reason as to why we are not being able to meet up with our OPEC quota and, even able to generate enough crude to sell, even, for instance, now we have Dangote Refinery and other, sub-refineries available in the country. Tell us a back-end story about sabotage and oil theft. How is it really working in the country? And is there a way to, address it? Because I would also believe that it's also a form of environmental fight against our natural resource. Man's activities,
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. It is something amusing that a government will come out to say that they are not meeting, their responsibilities because of internal activities. When they vote, humongous amounts on security votes, both at the state local government and federal levels. And then they come out to tell us that, you know, they can't meet their OPEC quota because of sabotage. Who are the ones sabotaging? Who are the bunkerers? Okay? And here we are talking of illegal bunkerers because when we talk about bunkering, we must make it very clear that there are two categories of bunkering. There are legal bunkering, they are legal bunkerers and illegal bunkerers. Legal bunkerers are those that are licensed to extract. So they are known to the law and they have regulations guiding their operations and their activities. The illegal bunkerers are those that steals. You know, this is where the coinage of oil theft comes from. Okay, those are steals the oil, and those are the people that, you know, because they are thieves, and we know that every thief does things so that he or she will not be caught, and in the process, they destroy while they are stealing. And this is where, you know, the leakages that are caused by oil theft spread to destroy the environment and sabotage. Of course, they are all aligned. They are brothers and sisters, sabotage and oil theft, because those that are sabotaging are not doing it for national interest or communal or community interest. They are doing it for their own private interest. Okay, so when they sabotage and they make statements, once they are settled, you know, they relapse and go into other things and wait for another opportunity when there is problem for them to come up again with sabotage. So, but I think the critical one is oil theft. And now in this country, you would have heard when it came out clearly that those that embarks on this oil theft are majorly two categories of persons. One, the highest are those at the corridors of power, including the security operatives who are involved in those nefarious activities. And then the second one are those that works in the oil industry itself, who steals their own company oil, you know, because they know how to do that. So the blame game had been that oil companies push the blame, government puts the blame on citizens, community people. But we used to ask this question: how many community people are rich enough to buy vessels in the high sea to now use to do the oil stealing, oil thieving? Okay? So those, of course, we are not saying that
Mr. Chima Williams, who is an environmental activist, and we're looking at the activities of multinationals in Nigeria, especially in the face of their divestment. How is this affecting our environment? If these multinationals successfully pull out operations in Nigeria, who will pay for the brunt of the activities that they've already carried out in the country? Several things have already been said by Barrister Chima this morning, and we're just pushing closer to the end of this particular conversation. Thank you so much, Barrister Williams, for being there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Okay, I think Barrister Williams is struggling to hear us. I'm sure that will be fixed in a moment and we can build up in the conversation. But he has thrown up the case of sabotage and oil theft as a major systemic issue in Nigeria. And as he has also alluded to the fact that several high-profile persons in key corridors are responsible for these kinds of activities. It's alarming to realize that there's what can be referred to as legal bunkering and illegal bunkering. So there are those that have licenses from the government with certain guidelines to go about the activities that they're perpetrating on our soil. But he was raising a big question just before we lost ourselves for a moment, talking about the fact that how many community persons have the economic fortitude to actually, engage oil theft in the country. Every now and then you hear the Nigerian Navy, the Nigerian military talking about refineries, that have been found and destroyed. You keep asking, which refineries are these? And are these the best approach? Of course, these are some of the things that will tie up with Barrister Williams this morning. Barrister, are you able to hear me? Hello, Barrister Williams. All right, we'll just take a quick pause and in a moment try to fix up all of that and we'll get back into the conversation. Stay with us.
Rise and shine. Rise and shine.
Of course, let's just get back into the conversation this Friday morning as we wrap up our conversation with Barrister Williams, who is an environmental activist. Barrister, you were onto something when we lost you for a moment. You were asking the question as to how the government can postulate that communities have the economic power to engage in oil theft and, weighty sabotage, as it were. Barrister Williams, are you able to
Please,
hear?
can you take it again? Can you take the question again?
Okay, so I was just asking for you to go back on your
I
thought.
can hear you now, but it is breaking.
Okay. I was trying to get you back on your last line of thought where
Okay.
you were asking about the fact that communities don't have the economic power to engage the level of oil theft and sabotage that government reports.
Yeah. So that is correct. And I said it with authority because it is no longer my word. Because from my previous organization, we had made it very clear from our own internal researches that most of these oil thefts occur because there's involvement of staff of the oil companies, multinationals, who are involved, the security agents operating in that sector, they are involved. People at the corridors of power, highly placed government officials are also involved. Because for community people that are seeking for a way to eke out a living, what resources do they have to hire, let alone purchase, seafaring vessels for oil stealing? Because the quantum of oil that leaves the shores of this country that makes government claim that they cannot meet their supply needs are not such that, oil stolen in jerry cans can cause. So we ask, it's been a government report, in fact, at a point from presidency too, and from some governors to make it clear that the oil theft that occurs in the Niger Delta are perpetrated by people in high and mighty positions, not necessarily the community people. Some of our community dissidents are used as, work tools by those super rich and super empowered citizens to do their bidding.
And oftentimes it's these community people that also pay the price for this sabotage, because at the end of the day, when their hideouts are found, supposedly so by the Navy, they're the ones who are arrested. It's their facilities that are burned down. So how can we mitigate this?
Yeah, it's been a part of our campaign to let our brothers and sisters know that you are not doing yourself any good by being involved. Okay? Of course, while you are involved and you are not caught, or no accident happens, of course, you hear stories of where mishaps occur. Hundreds of youths are roasted alive in those facilities. It's not the people in authority that gets roasted. It is citizens. Okay, so it is a heavy price to pay just because you want to eke out a living in an unconscionable manner. Okay, though if some of them that succeed, they parade themselves as they have arrived and this and that, but resources that are not generated through the accurate and right source does not last. Before you know it evaporates, you go back to square one. So we've been trying to enlighten our people that whoever is involved in oil sabotage and oil theft is not and can never be speaking for his or her community people, because that person is making blood money. Okay? Because the destruction that are associated with such practices hurt the people that you think you are protecting or you are fighting for. Okay. So you are not fighting for anybody, you are fighting for your pockets. And as far as some of us are concerned, it is blood money. So we must call it by its right name so that our people will see how weighty it is and will leave that source.
Hello.
Now, of course, if those high and mighty that has the money, if they don't have the easy material, recruitment force of those that will do their bidding, the business will reduce, if not stop, because they cannot come to the creeks on their own to bust pipes and collect the oil. They have to pay people that will take those kind of risks on their behalf. Okay? So that will reduce. But of course, that can only reduce when the government lives up to their responsibility of ensuring that citizens live, a life that is sustainable, a life that they'll be proud of themselves, a life that makes them humans, a life that places value on human life above every other thing. Until that is understood by our government and our so-called leaders and begin to practice that, we'll continue to see all these negativities happening in our environments.
Okay. These are really strong conversations, but just before I let you go, I would like for you to speak to some of the litigations that you have pushed, as an environmental activist.
Are you there? I
Yes.
can't hear you.
Are you able to hear me now? Okay, Barrister Williams, are you able to hear me?
Hello?
Okay, I don't know what the audio issue is, but I can hear him clearly, but it seems not to hear me, and we will definitely wrap up this conversation in a moment. But a big question is here, the matter of awareness for every environment where we have natural resource. we need adequate awareness to be created to the communities around these heavy activities to know what to do, what to expect, and how to act around, activities of whether it's exploration or exploitation and all the likes. Okay. I seem to have lost Barrister Williams there. The audio must have glitched for a moment. Of course, several reports can be made. Of course, if you are now, we are also going beyond energy, just oil and gas. We're also looking at solid minerals, and activism such as this would also address exploration, exploitation, and any other activities that happens around solid minerals. And it's important that as Nigerians that we speak up when we see degradation of our environments by people who come in to do business. One of the things that we've alluded in this conversation this morning is that these multinationals cannot just divest from the country without having a restoration plan on ground to restore the environment where they explored and then there were issues. The federal government should not allow these companies to just divest at the expense of Nigeria and Nigerians. Well, it's been a holistic conversation. I wish we could pull through and conclude with Barrister Williams. But of course, I was speaking with Barrister Chima Williams, who is an environmental activist. We're going to take a quick pause and just breathe. And in a moment, we take the front pages of our national dailies, and that's where we wrap up this morning.
Rise and shine. Rise and shine.